Mr. Wright.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Prime Minister.
Good to see you. Clearly this aspect of our session focuses entirely on COVID, and it has been widely welcomed, your announcement that there will be a public inquiry. Could you tell the committee when that inquiry will begin into the response to the pandemic?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Wright. We don't, of course we will have a lessons learned inquiry. We will look at everything that has gone wrong and gone right. We will try to work out what we can do to do things better in future. Of course, that's the right thing to do. I have to say, I don't think that would be a good use of official time at the moment. We've just been having a long discussion about the very, very pressing need to ramp up our testing operation. Huge numbers of officials across government, across the country, are involved in that right now.
Well, establishing any inquiry now would mean it probably will start in the new year. So what is the impediment to getting that background work underway?
Just the one I mentioned.
And is there any further thought in terms of what rapid response lessons learned that you've learnt already? Could you give some key examples of those and how they've been implemented?
I wouldn't want to anticipate the work of any such inquiry.
But as you said, work must already have been done for rapid response and lessons learned already in the course of the pandemic. So could you give some specific examples of that?
Well, I think we've learned all sorts of things, and I think it was Greg who said earlier on that one of the things that's really changed our thinking is the high level of transmission that is now asymptomatic, and that's changed the way we respond. There are all sorts of things that we're learning the whole time.
Okay. Can I just take you on to issues around the civil service more broadly, because clearly its ability to respond to the pandemic has been and will continue to be key. So could you outline why you think the civil service requires reform?
Well, I think that the civil service does an outstanding job. I think that's the first and most important thing to say. I venerate our civil service, and I think that they are fantastic public servants, and I think that they deliver extraordinary things every day for the British public and every level of government. I do think that, as I think I said in a speech in Dudley, I do think perhaps one of the lessons that we need to draw from this, and perhaps what Greg and others have been talking about in the case of testing, well, maybe there are some times when we need to be able to move faster. Project Speed is of great value, I think, to the workings of our civil service, and we certainly won't be shy of reform where it's necessary.
And of course you are the Minister for the civil service, so how do you envisage that reform taking place and when?
Well, there are changes and what I hope are improvements going on the whole time. But I wish to stress to the committee that these are not being done in any spirit of disapproval of the ethic of service or the performance of our civil service. Our civil service do an outstanding job. What we want to do is to try to make sure that they can perhaps respond faster, better to the needs of the public. So
any such reform wouldn't alter that fundamental established relationship between ministers and civil servants?
No, I think that the Northcote-Trevelyan principles are extremely important.
So when should a minister resign rather than their officials?
I believe that ministers should, of course, be responsible, and indeed I, as the Minister for the Civil Service and Prime Minister, take full responsibility for everything the government does.
Could you explain the difference perhaps between that responsibility and ministerial accountability?
Yes, I think ministerial accountability is really before Parliament and before the electorate.
And can ministers, for example, dismiss civil servants?
I think a minister is entitled to make clear that he or she believes that the operation of the department would be better if things were different. Yes, I do think it's essential.
So, for a minister to resign, does it require a failure of policy or a failure of its implementation?
I think a minister obviously is accountable for all the failures that government can be blamed for. Of course, that's right.